This is a movie called Jesus Camp. If you're unfamiliar, it's like a documentary style thing that gives insight into the evangelical world and what they're doing right now. I think it's actually a little bit older. It's from like 2015 maybe. Oh wow, 2006. I thought it was a lot newer than that. Yeah, September 2006 apparently is when it released. So anyways, it's a fantastic video, fantastic documentary. The filmmakers intentionally didn't comment on anything, to my knowledge. They didn't like insert any whatever. They just wanted to film. They just wanted to show people what was happening. That's it. So let's watch Jesus Camp. I got it. I purchased it on YouTube, and we're going to give it a watch. And while we do, I'm going to play Breath of the Wild 2. I'm just kind of running around farming stuff, so it shouldn't, like, it'll be in the background. Shouldn't worry about it too much. All right, let's give this a watch.
What you want, when you want it. When you want it. KMBZ On Demand from the voice of Kansas City News Radio.
Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman ever to serve on the High Court, has turned in her letter of resignation, bringing her career on the High Court to an end.
Right, so I guess this is, again, 2006. This is when Sandra Day O'Connor, left the Supreme Court. Interesting. She was a Supreme Court member.
Go to the White House.
Good morning. I have directed my staff to compile information and recommend for my review potential nominees who will faithfully interpret the Constitution and laws of our country.
Obviously, 2006, George Bush was president at the time. Just give a little cultural context. This is before the big crash of 2008, before Obama was even, on the scene. I don't think he was even, I don't think primaries or anything were going on at the time. It was just George Bush, near the end of his term, decided, one of the Supreme Court nominees, or one of the Supreme Court members decided to leave the Supreme Court before the next election so that a conservative would get in.
And I believe as Christian citizens of this country that we should be actively involved in this historic moment. And if the church across this country, believers, can come together and take a stand, I think it's going to have a powerful, powerful impact on this process.
See, probably part of the reason why they're playing this stuff right now, like these radio messages and stuff, is because I assume they're making a point about the fact that radio was deeply, deeply influential in the right-wing extremist movement, basically. For example, Rush Limbaugh, the guy's dead now, but he celebrated people getting AIDS and dying. Does it get more disgusting than that? The dude was a monster, okay? But he was so incredibly influential. So influential in, the Christian world. Hell, not just the Christian world. He's on AM radio. Rush Limbaugh was. So people turn the radio on. This is before cell phones were really, really big. People turn the radio on their drive to work and just listen. AM radio or whatever. It's a super common thing to do. I remember doing it myself. Before cell phones were, all over the place. Or before smartphones were really popularized. I think smartphones kind of existed, but they weren't, everywhere yet. So the right put a concerted effort into getting a hold of people on radio. They wanted to kind of take control of or co-opt radio stations, get as many conservatives as humanly possible on radio, because they knew that's the most influential ground. Now conservatives know that the most influential ground is social media, so they do everything they can to build social media presences, and they, Koch brothers fund, billionaires fund a lot of these smaller social media people. They put a ton of money into social media now. Well, back then it was radio. So anyway, let's keep listening. I think that's the point they're probably making here.
We dare not sleep through this point of decision because, frankly, future generations depend on us. Pray urgently that God's perfect will be done.
Yeah, they want to make everything feel very urgent for everybody. They want you to feel like if you don't do something immediately, then you're failing as a Christian, or you're going to die, or you're gonna make it to hell, or something like that. You know, everything has to be dire. It's called producing fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD. That's the name of the propaganda technique. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's what they try to foster in people desperately. And they did it through radio for years. Now they do it on Fox News. They do it on social media. They do it everywhere.
We'll be playing our quiz.
We are engaged today in what they call culture war. We didn't start it, but we, by His grace, are going to end it. And we should say, yes, we want to reclaim America for Christ.
A&E Indie Films. Loki Films production. I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Okay, here we go. I think it starts roughly right here. On the air.
Up in the pulpit, this mean-spirited message, us against them. And that's what the religious right is doing in the United States now. It is dividing this country. All right, we have Tyree in Hillside, Illinois, listens on WCPT. What do you have on your mind?
Isn't this guy from Ring of Fire Radio or something? I think that this guy's a lawyer, and he's on YouTube now. He's kind of in my sphere a little bit. That's kind of interesting.
I'm a Christian. I'm a Bible-believing Christian. Somehow these guys don't jive with the Christianity and what I've learned. I mean, there's an authoritarian kind of way about them, and there's nothing gentle, there's nothing compassionate. To me, there's nothing Christian about them.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's upside down. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it is its own kind of form of belief system. It's Christianity, plain and simple. Somebody identifies themselves as Christian, they're Christian. That's what it takes to be a Christian. It's a self-ascribed label. Whether people like that or not is irrelevant. But it's a new type of Christian, a unique brand that's kind of come out of nothing, that was kind of formed out by Jerry Falwell Sr. and Billy Graham intentionally. Like, they set out to co-opt one of the political parties and take control of it in the 70s and the 80s. And here we are now. They succeeded. They did it. They took control of the Republican Party for all intents and purposes. So it's like it is very much like its own religion now. It's very much like at the very least its own denomination of Christianity. It's not like normal Christianity.
I mean, yeah, I've been raised a Christian all my life. I think that's probably the thing that upsets me most about what's happening.
none of it really makes any sense to me.
So there's some new brand of religion out there that somehow things have changed since Matthew wrote about Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus told us to be peacemakers. And right now, everything they do, they say they do in the name of God.
Yeah, definitely. They zero in on the verses in the Bible that, support their position. I've said this about the Bible time and time again. You can take any moral position and find verses to back it up. Because any moral positions that the Bible espouses, it reverses, a chapter later or a book later. Because it's a very large book, 32,000 verses, I believe, written by dozens of authors over thousands of years. And there are varying levels of wealth and social status, and they all had different opinions on how the world should work. So if you have a moral position that you hold, you can find verses in the Bible to back those positions up. Plain and simple. Now, Jesus said, "I came not to bring peace but a sword." And evangelical extremists zero in on that single thing that Jesus said. And point it out and say, hey, look, see? Jesus wants violence. Jesus is all about violence. Ignoring all of the other stuff that he said about not judging lest ye be judged. And, I don't know that, Jesus said that, didn't he? I don't remember. Anyway, or maybe Paul said that. Being peaceful and loving and accepting, talking to people even when it was forbidden. You remember the Samaritan woman? Is that who it was? I don't remember now. He talked to people even when it was socially unacceptable to do so. That's who Jesus was. But the evangelicals forget those parts. They ignore them completely. They find the parts that suit their moral positions that they already believe, and they run with it. They yell about it constantly.
Say they do in the name of God, that we need to go to war in the name of God. They're being told that George Bush, of all people, is a holy man who's been anointed with the job of creating a Christian society, not just in America, but all over the world.
You and I know that's bull.
There's this entanglement of politics with religion. What kind of lesson is that for our children?
Jesus camp. I think the whole bit behind this, the premise is they follow this kid Levi around when he goes to a camp. I believe that's what this is all about, if I remember correctly.
There's never been a generation like this one. The earth is filled with the dead and dying, in spirit and in body. But now is the time for the glory of the Lord to cover the earth as the water covers the seas.
That's Levi right there on screen, I think. That's who this kind of follows.
The time. We prophesy to these dry bones, arise. Now is the time. Speak the word of the Lord.
Okay, to avoid any serious copyright issues, I'm just going to jump past the music they're playing. It's terrible anyways. Here we go. So I guess they did a performance, basically, at this church.
Wow! I have no idea how many people are here today. I'm told the auditorium will hold about 500, so we're doing pretty good, aren't we?
Okay, listen, moms and dads, I want to tell you about some of the things we have in the bookstore. We have the School of Evangelism, and unfortunately, this one doesn't sell quite as much because people, for whatever reason, I guess they think this is going to be a door-knocking manual, and it's not. There's a hands-on manual in the back that teaches kids how to actually start a conversation with their friends and how to win the lost.
Oh, that's fascinating. This book, School of Evangelism, teaches kids how to evangelize to their friends. Not a door-knocking book. It's just how to spread Jesus to the people around you. They have a lot of similarities with Jehovah's Witnesses, don't they? Again, this is like its own denomination of Christianity that is completely different from the ones in the past and has been co-opted. It has inextricably linked itself to politics.
Another thing that I wanted to announce is our camp coming up in August. Yeah. And it's just going to be an incredible time. We've got brochures on the camp sitting in the bookstore. You need to pick one up and begin praying about whether or not you can get there this year. Okay.
Yeah, that's Jesus Camp, I guess. So the filmmakers follow the people around. Emily Siegel, did you hear some elementary schools in Utah removing the Bible from their libraries? I did. I feel like they learned the wrong lesson, though. You know, people making a point about the Bible, like, books are being banned left and right at the moment in school districts and everything, libraries, so on and so forth, right? Books are being banned all over the place, and it's, you know, the excuse they're using to ban these books is violence or graphic material in one way or another. So people point out, well, the Bible, you're going to have to ban that if you're going to ban all these other supposedly graphic books. The point is, there are some graphic parts in some books, but it doesn't, you know, define the book, and books shouldn't be banned, generally. That was the point behind trying to ban the Bible. Not to ban it, but to unban the other stuff. And these people missed the point entirely. They're like, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of violent stuff in the Bible, so I guess we'll just cut it out. I guess we'll just ban it. Are you kidding me? Really? Are you not getting the point here? You should not be banning books, is the point. Unban books. Stop banning stuff. I don't want the Bible banned from libraries. I want everything else put back. People, I swear to God, like, refuse to get the point. No matter what. They simply will not. Just bothers the hell out of me, man. Let me know what you think. All right, let's keep listening to Jesus Camp.
Okay?
Boys and girls, I need everybody sitting up straight, hands holding smiley faces, looking right this way. Is there anyone in here that believes that God can do anything? God can do anything. We could just say, God, fix the world. How many of you know that this is a pretty sick old world?
I mean, sure, he can do anything in their theology, right? But he doesn't do it. That's the problem here. There is no evidence that God interferes in day-to-day life in any way. Like, if God interfered in day-to-day life, I have to imagine we wouldn't see, you know, starving kids all over the world. We wouldn't see domestic violence against children either, even in the United States, anywhere. But we do. Why? God could fix it instantly, couldn't he? According to you? Why doesn't he do it? This is a philosophical problem called impotence versus evil. And it's something that, you know, evangelicals like these guys here still haven't answered for. You know, these are the people that believe that God can help you find your car keys when they go missing.
Someone, you're watching me right now, and you're like, man, I lost my keys. I can't find my keys. They're underneath the cushion. I'm serious. It's underneath the cushion. Go do it right now. And if you can, type it and tell people. I'm serious. It's underneath the cushion. You didn't even know that it was there, but it fell out. It's underneath your cushion. And I say that not only will you find those keys, but you're going to find the keys that are going to unlock a new season for you this season.
See, I thought this was a joke. I thought it was a meme when people say, oh, God helped my brother or whatever find his car keys. I thought it was a joke. I didn't know that people actually took something like that seriously or actually said something like that. I had no idea this is something that was actually repeated in Christian circles. As absurd as it is. But sure enough, we have people out here actually saying things like, God helped me find my car keys. It is an absolute embarrassment. It's the same people. It's the same people that we're talking about right now. The same group of people who talk about God finding your car keys are the same ones that believe he interferes in everyone's everyday life on a regular basis and is somehow incapable of feeding starving children. He'll help you find your car keys. He's not going to feed starving children in Africa or, hell, in America. Why? Because that fits their theology. That's why. Because they can use the car key thing as a cheap parlor trick to convince people of something. You know, statistically, what Hank Kunneman did, this is a statistical thing. He's using statistics against people. He does it all the time. Statistically speaking, he's got, 10,000 people watching maybe at home? Say 2% of the people watching are missing their car keys. And a further 5% of those people dropped them between their couch cushions. So statistically speaking, I don't know how many, say 100 people maybe, will actually find their keys in their couch cushions. He knows this is a statistics thing. He just created 100 brand new believers, brand new donators, who believe that he is actually in communication with God himself, and God gave them that message through him. That's how the grift works. I don't think that Kunneman believes what he says, that specific guy. And I'm hard-pressed to believe that a lot of these people buy what they're saying. But I think that they're willing to, like these evangelical extremists, I think they're willing to lie for Jesus because that's part of the package. That's part of the deal. Theocratic warfare, spiritual warfare. Any lying, cheating, manipulating, whatever is justified if it's in service to God himself. That's the belief. That's the idea here.
This is a sick old world. Well, then let's just fix it. Somebody get your tools out and let's just fix this old world.
And the tools, I guess, is this book that helps kids evangelize to their friends.
Kids, you got to change things. We got too many Christian grown-ups that are fat and lazy. They don't want to give up their evening meal. They don't want to fast for a 3-day fast or a 40-day fast or whatever.
Dude, why would anybody be fasting like that? What's the point?
Do you know Muslims train their children from the time they're 5 years old to fast during the month of Ramadan?
Yeah, I'm Muslim. That's the whole key here. You have to get them young. If you get them young, you'll have them for life. That's the idea.
Listen, we hold the keys. We can change the world. Boys and girls can change the world? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's stand to our feet. Hallelujah. I need you to get serious with God. Say, God, I'm here to be trained. I'm here for an education. I'm willing, God. I'll do what you want me to do. I'll say what you want me to say. In Jesus' name. Amen.
And who tells these people what Jesus wants? Who tells these little kids what Jesus wants? Why, this woman does, of course. Why, Jerry Falwell Sr. does, of course. You can trust them because they have a direct line to God, right? I mean, it's all a grift. That's obvious, right? Everybody can see that for what it is, can't they? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. It's all a grift. It always was. with these
If
people.
you don't open your mouth, the Holy Spirit can't talk. All right, now I want everyone to raise your hands, and we're going to pray in tongues. Hallelujah. Let's do it. Oh, we love you, Jesus.
I understand that speaking in tongues is a learned thing. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you learn to do it, you don't forget it, and you can do it on command. And it's fake. There are a billion studies that prove that speaking in tongues follows language patterns across different languages and everything. It's supposed to be a language that God is giving to you, but it's nonsensical. And it's different for each person. It sounds different for every single person. It shouldn't if it's a real language God's giving you, right? Like, the whole thing is complete nonsense. I feel like that's obvious. I just want to make it clear because some people coming out of Christianity or coming out of this extremism believe that it's real. Speaking in tongues is fake. And learning to do it is difficult, and it's almost like a rite of passage, especially for these kids here. Learning to do it is important. You're not spiritual enough until God gifts you with the ability to speak in tongues, basically. That's the idea. So she's training them to do it right now. That's what's happening.
Holy Spirit, fall. He's here. Feel his power. Feel his power. This is you talking, and the Holy Spirit's just going to whisper in your ear what to say. You have the answer. Don't stop. Don't stop. This is the greatest day of your life next to the day you got saved.
Yeah, and this whole thing also puts them in a trance-like state almost. Gets them, heightened emotions. It gets them solely focused on nothing but Jesus. And that kind of thing releases endorphins. You ever heard of the runner's high? You actually get high from running. Like, literally, you get high from it. I don't know. It's like doing coke. A rush of endorphins comes through your body, and it's a deeply enjoyable experience. That's exactly what these people are experiencing right now. These little kids, they're experiencing a high. Not a runner's high, but I guess you could call it a religious high. Religion works on the same part of the brain as drugs do. I learned about this in my psychology classes in college. Religion works on the same part of the brain as drugs do. Now, AA and NA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. I mean, this is a little side point here, but they attempt to replace the drug with a quote-unquote higher power, as they call it. I mean, they've been moving away from religious language a little bit, but there's no way to take part in NA or AA without the religion. The problem with that is what happens when that religion is challenged. What happens when your faith is challenged? You suddenly don't have a reason to be clean anymore, right? So anyways, this is creating a high with people. That's what NA and AA kind of aim to do also. Create a high through the love of Jesus. And it's creating a high in these kids that they will continue to chase. It's a trance-like state, and cults are famous for doing this kind of thing. See, they're getting deeply emotional. They're getting high, honestly. Their brains feel exactly like what it feels like to do coke, a small amount of coke.
She's not in a trance. She's not out of it. She's very aware of what's going on.
But she does feel like she's on a drug.
She's just hooking up with the Spirit. She's just staying focused.
Okay, it says Becky Fishers, a Pentecostal children's minister. Yeah, so evangelicals call themselves non-denominational commonly, but it's a mix of Pentecostal and a couple of other a couple other denominations. And what do you call it? Oh my God, what's the name of it? Prosperity gospel is a fundamental piece of this belief system. You know, prosperity gospel is, once again, a mix of Pentecostalism and the law of attraction from New Age thinking. Really, prosperity gospel came from the law of attraction. So anyway, Becky Fishers, Pentecostal children's minister. Let's keep listening here. She runs conferences in an annual summer camp for evangelical kids.
I can go into a playground of kids that don't know anything about Christianity, lead them to the Lord in a matter of just no time at all. And just moments later, they can be seeing visions and hearing the voice of God because they're so open. They are so usable in Christianity.
So usable in Christianity. You catch that? These people revel in being used. They believe they're being used by Jesus. In reality, they're being used by Becky, by this woman right here. They're being used by her to spread her beliefs far and wide, to propagandize, to propagate their belief systems when there's absolutely no reason to believe any of it. And it's one of the more far-fetched denominations of Christianity, in my opinion. There are so many claims that go along with, like, this specific, evangelical belief system. You can't just believe Jesus came back or that Jesus came to earth and died for your sins and all that. You can't just believe that. It's not that simple. That's not allowed. You have to also believe that Jesus is God, believe in the Trinity, that the earth is 6,000 years old, no older than that, and all kinds of other things that come along with it. Young earth creationism and stuff. I mean, it's borderline flat earth level conspiracies that you have to buy into to be a part of this.
If you look at the world's population, 1/3 of that 6.7 billion people are children under the age of 15. 1/3. Where should we be putting our efforts? Where should we be putting our focus? I'll tell you where our enemies are putting it. They're putting it on the kids.
Wow. All the way back then in 2006, they were spreading this meme that their quote-unquote enemies were putting their focus on the kids. The LGBT whatever taking over children. I mean, nonsense. No one was ever putting focus on the kids except for you. They have, these evangelicals, like this woman right here, have always created or fabricated an enemy, a false enemy that doesn't exist, to justify the horrific stuff that they do. Not too long ago, Gene Bailey, guy from the TV show Flashpoint on Kenneth Copeland's network, Gene Bailey said, "The enemy has always gone for the youth. Hitler went for the youth. We must go for the youth. We must go for the youth and arm them with the truth."
When we look back on Hitler went for the youth. The enemy always goes for the youth. We must take up arms and go for our youth, arms of the truth and of godly principles. But
they think that the left is trying to brainwash children. They're not. That's not happening. That was never happening. They're using it as a pretext to do some insane shit. That's really what it's all about.
They're going into the schools. You go into Palestine, and I can take you to some websites that will absolutely shake you to your foundations and show you photographs of where they're taking their kids to camps like we take our kids to Bible camps, and they're putting hand grenades in their hands. They're teaching them how to put on bomb belts. They're teaching them how to use rifles. They're teaching.
Okay, yeah, this is just pro-Israel, anti-Palestine propaganda. I don't like, terrorist action ever. I think it's wrong and bad and damaging, and it shouldn't be done. But Israel is a far-right government right now. I wish that the left could take over in Israel. Until the left takes over in Israel, or at least a centrist party rather than this far-right extremist one, I'm going to have to criticize Israel for what they're doing. I don't like that any more than I like to criticize the U.S. government. I wish that they would just get their shit together and not be nutter butters, but here we sit, right? So she has played her hand as a Zionist. She believes, I would bet anything, she's one of those Christians, one of those denominations who believes that Israel must exist as a country before the end can come. This is a fundamental part of evangelical belief. That's why they support Israel. And they believe that, depending on the person, depending on the version of the religion or whatever, they believe that Russia is going to go in and attack Israel, and that's where the final battleground in the world will take place, and 2/3 of all Jews will be killed. Rightfully so, in these people's eyes. They pretend to be pro-Israel. Really, it's for their own ends, and they revel in the idea that Jews will suffer in the end. They enjoy thinking about it. They are not pro-Israel. They are pro the end coming.
Teaching them how to use machine guns. It's no wonder, with that kind of intense training and discipling, that those young people are ready to kill themselves for the cause of Islam.
Okay, so she just outlined an example of Muslims doing something extreme. Now, are they doing that in Palestine? I don't know. I'm not going to pull that apart. I'm sure that they've done that somewhere. Muslims have done that somewhere. They've trained children to do crazy stuff, right? Yes. I'll give you that. Now, is that something that you're going to advocate Christians do? Because you're sitting here calling it out. And if past experience has told me anything, it's that when Christians call this stuff out, it's to point out that they're unhappy about the fact that it's not happening on their side. It's to point out the fact that they should be doing it too, militarizing their churches and teaching their children to use machine guns and stuff. Seriously. In my experience, that's why they point this stuff out. Gene Bailey and Hank Kunneman on the TV show Flashpoint on the Victory Network, owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland.
When we look back on Hitler went for the youth. The enemy always goes for the youth. We must take up arms and go for our youth, arms of the truth. And
so I've learned that anytime an evangelical, like these guys right here, point out something the left is doing, even though the left is not doing that stuff, anytime they point out something the left is doing, it is to encourage their people to do the same. The left is brainwashing children with, left-wing propaganda books. We must also brainwash children with right-wing propaganda books. They fabricate a situation that justifies their extremism. That's what I would be willing to bet that's what this woman is doing right now. Fabricating, a situation about Palestine to justify Christians doing the same. Militarizing their children, basically. Maybe not to that degree yet, but they definitely want to create a military force in Christianity.
It's no wonder, with that kind of intense training and discipling, that those young people are ready to kill themselves for the cause of Islam. I want to see young people who are as committed to the cause of Jesus Christ as the young people are to the cause of Islam.
Told ya, didn't I? What did I say? I said she was going to decry the evil that Islam is doing right now, and then say we must do the same. I told you, didn't I tell you?
I want to see them as radically laying down their lives for the gospel as they are over in Pakistan and in Israel and Palestine and all those different places.
Look, either it's evil or it's not. Either you are disturbed by the idea of using children to further your political and religious goals, or you're not disturbed by that. Are you disturbed by Muslims supposedly doing this? How can you possibly justify it when you do it? There is no consistency. There are no principles to be had. There is no sense of hypocrisy. All they care about is propagandizing, lying, and manipulating people. They come up with a pretext to brainwash children. Well, the other side's doing it. And then they say, we have to do it too, or all of our children will be brainwashed by the left.
You know, because we have, excuse me, but we have the truth.
Right, so it's justified because we have the truth, because we are right. See, this harkens back to an old moral debate that I keep thinking about. Here's the bottom line with this moral debate. Wow, somebody is honking their horn. They are miffed, straight up miffed right now. Back in 2020, Trump supporters were going all around, going to gas stations and posting like, I did this stickers on gas pumps. Like, Biden, I did this stickers, in an effort to link Biden to, you know, the gas prices going up or whatever. That was the goal. Of course, it's vastly more complicated than that, but nuance doesn't matter. They just wanted to link him to it. And it was largely a successful effort. Now, that's obviously ridiculous and wrong, in my opinion. They shouldn't be doing that. The reason I say that's wrong is because they were sticking this stuff on private property, which is vandalism. They were breaking the law by vandalizing somebody else's property. Somebody had to pay money to clean this stuff up. A lot of places chose just not to clean it up. And this is the same behavior that we saw from brown shirts back in World War II, Hitler's private army, the equivalent of the Proud Boys today. They did this exact type of thing. It started out with minor vandalism, and it escalated to something more. But, you know, there are stickers that somebody created, anti-Jehovah's Witness stickers. Basically, you see somebody on a street corner passing out magazines. You can go up to the lamppost or in the subway station, stick it on the wall behind them. There are stickers you can put up that say, do you have questions about this religion? Do some things not make sense about Jehovah's Witnesses? Check this out. And it links to like a documentary on YouTube about Jehovah's Witnesses being damaging to society. Now, here's my moral conundrum that I find. How can I complain about Trump supporters sticking stuff on gas pumps and simultaneously stick things on walls and stuff myself? And I think the conclusion that I've come to is, a lot of people say mine is fact-based, my position. When I bring this up with others, they say, yours is fact-based and logic-based, i.e., exactly what she just said. Well, I'm right.
You know, because we have, excuse me, but we have the truth.
That's why it's justified for me to brainwash children, because I'm right about what I believe. But That's really the root of the problem, isn't it? She believes she's right. I believe I'm right. How do we tell the difference? How do we know which one? I mean, obviously, I think I'm right. But the tactics are what I'm, warring about, or warring with myself over. The tactics. And I think I've come to the conclusion that it's okay to stick stuff to walls or whatever, as long as it's in a public place. Not on a gas pump, because there are a bunch of regulations about that. It's not acceptable to, cover it with stickers. That is actually illegal and not good for a variety of legal reasons. But if they want to stick it to a wall, okay. I don't have a problem with the tactic. I have a problem with the message, ultimately, in the end. So anyway, I don't know. These moral conundrums that I'm describing right now, these people never face these problems. They never even think about it. All they think about is brainwash children at any cost. We must get children into the fold. We must bring them in. And they'll come up with any excuse, any pretext to do so.
I would say there's a friendlier environment now in the United States towards Christianity than there has been in my lifetime. And a lot of it has to do, just in the last few years, has to do with President Bush. He has really brought some real credibility to the Christian faith. He's been...
Of course, Bush was a president at the time, 2006.
...been very open, blatantly open about his faith in God.
Yeah, Iraq was... His war in the Middle East, George Bush's war in the Middle East, was a religious war. I don't know if you guys realize that. But the French Prime Minister at the time, Bush showed up there and asked the French Prime Minister if he would come with him and assist in his efforts to, attack the Middle East or whatever. What did the French Prime Minister say? He said no, obviously, because they didn't contribute. But the French Prime Minister also said George Bush claimed that this was the war of Gog and Magog. Like at the very end, it was something that he kind of mentioned that caught the guy's attention, that was confusing to him. And he was like, "What? Did you say it's the war of Gog and Magog?" Like what a weird thing to say, right? It's a bizarre thing to say in a meeting with a French Prime Minister about going to war. Iraq, or George Bush's wars in the Middle East, were religious wars, plain and simple. He did it for religious reasons. He's a religious extremist. Trump was. I'm sorry, Trump was not a religious extremist, but an extremist nonetheless. Bush was a religious extremist. And did a lot of the things that he did for religion, disturbingly.
This moment right now today is a fulfillment of prophecy. We've got to stand up and take back the land. Hey, listen, I just wanted to get to know you guys more. Now, both of you came with Mark, right? Yep. And he's your children's pastor? Yep. But you're not related to him, right? No. No, he's coming to our camp this summer. Are you guys coming too?
North Dakota?
To North Dakota?
Yes.
You are coming?
Yeah.
Totally cool. Is your whole family coming? Or just you guys?
I think just us.
Awesome.
Like my brother, my twin brother.
Okay, I want to know more about you guys. How long have you been a Christian?
I've been a Christian. I was at 5. I got...
Yeah, this kid with the rat tail or the half mullet here on the left, the kid talking right now, he is Levi, and he is kind of the focus of the film. Okay.
I was at 5. I got saved.
Yeah?
Because I just wanted more of life.
Yeah?
Because there was just nothing that I thought was fun.
You thought at 5 years old there was nothing fun? Yeah. Really? Already?
5 years old.
So what do you think this camp is going to be like? What are you expecting? What are you expecting God to do for you?
What am I expecting God to do for me?
Yeah, at camp.
I think, at camp, I think God's gonna, get me used to meeting other people because I have a hard time with that.
I can't believe that.
I'm shy.
You're shy. Can't believe it.
Except
that
for
is so
when
great.
things are happening in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, then you're not shy at all.
No.
Oh, you guys are great. Really appreciate you coming.
All right.
Can't wait to see you again this summer. Give me a hug. All right. Good to meet you, Taryn.
All right.
Good to meet you, Levi. We'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
God, this woman did so much damage to society, seriously. And she was just one cog in the machine, too. Just one more person spreading this absolutely unglued from reality ideology that set out to violate separation of church and state at any cost. It's nuts, man. Nuts. 43% of evangelical Christians become born again before the age of 13. So born again, I assume, is kind of like their baptism. It's like their commitment to the belief system, and if they violate it, then they're shunned, I'm assuming. It's that kind of extreme stuff. There's a billboard that says, "Let's meet at my house Sunday before the game." Okay, and here's a footage of an American flag and a Christian flag flying next to each other. The idea, of course, being Christianity and government should be one, essentially. St. Robert, Missouri. Okay.
Time of creation, Garden of Eden, approximately 6,000 years ago.
Well, I guess that they're watching some film. He lives in Missouri. Sounds like a no-name town in Missouri, just a really tiny area. And he's watching a creationist video, okay?
Was it an explosion? Did we come from a glob of goo? Ugh. I don't think so.
So this is what these poor kids watch instead of Saturday morning cartoons. You guys may not remember Saturday morning cartoons. That was like the thing to do back in the day before the internet existed.
It's been said that we are the result of an explosion. Is this true? Is this scientific? Or is it just based on a belief?
No, it's true and it's scientific. These people tend to believe in intelligent design or whatever other nonsense they can try to shove down people's throats to discredit the actual science. But when when push comes to shove, the fact is the Big Bang did take place and we have evolved from lower life forms. Whether you like that fact or not.
Levi! Come here. I need to be near you. All right, let's go over some things.
Exploring creation with physical science. So I think the kid is homeschooled? Oh, God. I'm so sorry for this kid. I was also homeschooled, and it was not a good experience. I had zero communication with the outside world for 3 years, basically. Came to the point where I was watching live news coverage because I knew somewhere in the world that thing was happening. That person was doing the exact thing that I was watching at that same moment. That's how disconnected I was, or how disconnected I felt from the world. Homeschooling, in my opinion, should be illegal. Except for very special cases, like they have a mental condition or some kind of a physical condition or something. And even then, it should be so heavily regulated, it's nearly impossible. You have to follow an exact curriculum. In my opinion, that's how it should go. But apparently they have a Christian homeschooling curriculum that they're following. You can say or do almost anything in homeschooling. It's nearly completely unregulated. It's one of the big problems, in my opinion. Exploring creation with physical science, okay?
One popular thing to do in American politics is to note that the summers in the United States over the past few years have been very warm. As a result, global warming must be real. What's wrong with this reasoning?
It's only gone up 0.6 degrees.
This is so sad, dude. And now I think just about everybody accepts that, you know, climate change is a real thing. And they were propagandizing about it all the way back then in 2006. Propagandizing desperately. They didn't want anybody to accept the fact that climate change is here and doing real damage right now. This isn't a future problem. It's a now problem. And it's getting worse, and it's only going to get even worse than it is now. Not going to get better until we fix it. Plain and simple. It's so sad that, you know, all the way back then, they were propagandizing to these kids about it. I wonder what these kids think about it now.
Yeah, it's not really a big problem, is it?
No, I don't think that it's gonna hurt us.
It's a huge political issue, global warming is, and that's why it's really important for you to understand.
Is evolution too?
Not really.
Creationism?
It's becoming one now. What if you had to go to a school where the teacher said creationism is stupid, and you're stupid if you believe in it?
Okay, no teacher would ever say that. By and large, they leave all of that stuff out of their lessons. And it's ridiculous that she would even imply such a thing. She's not implying, she's flat out saying it. No teacher would ever tell a student creationism is stupid and you're stupid if you believe it. That is an example of them being convinced that they are persecuted when they are simply not.
I think they should.
Well, or what if you had to go to a school where your teacher said evolution is stupid, and you're stupid if you believe in it?
I wouldn't mind that.
You would.
I wouldn't mind that. You see the hypocrisy here? I mean, evolution is a fact. It's just a fact of the world that you just have to learn about. So, it's justified to say, I mean, you should never tell someone they're stupid. That's not a good way of convincing somebody of a position. You should never, ever do that. But you should at least tell them that it's real and explain the process to them, right?
Wouldn't mind it. If you look at creationism, you realize it's the only possible answer to all the questions.
That's exactly what Dad said.
Mm-hmm. It's the only possible answer.
No way. Really? That's exactly what Dad said? What are the chances? What are the chances Dad would say the exact same thing as Mom? How about that? On religion. Anybody surprised? Knock me over with a feather.
Answered all the questions.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Did you get to the part on here where it says that science doesn't prove anything? And it's really interesting when you look at it that way.
It is.
It is.
All right.
All right.
I think personally that Galileo made the right choice by giving up science for Christ.
Wow, I think Galileo made the right choice by giving up science for Christ, they said. That is psychotic. These poor kids. I should be watching the screen. It says 75% of homeschooled kids in the U.S. are evangelical Christians. It's wrong, man. Like I said, you absolutely should not be allowed to be homeschooled. It should be so heavily regulated that almost nobody can do it. And the other 25% are anti-vaxxers. And there's a lot of overlap there, too, I'm sure.
God didn't say have children and give my kids to someone else for 8 hours a day. And if I can homeschool them as well.
Dude, did we even have schools back then, like in Bible times? Did public schools exist? I'm not sure. Maybe. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that, an Old Testament or hell, even a New Testament book doesn't say something about schools, about going to school, about whatever. Doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, I'd be surprised if it did say something about schooling. Because it's, it's just a different world. Plain and simple.
Well as the school can public school them, why would I send them somewhere else for 8 hours a day?
If I can homeschool as well as the public school can school them, well, you can't. That's the problem. You cannot. You don't have a degree in early education or any degree in education at all, presumably. You don't have a master's degree, which, by the way, is what teachers have to become teachers. You don't have any of the knowledge or tools or information or anything to properly train a kid the way that a school is capable of doing. And it's deeply, deeply sad to me that these kids are being brainwashed basically constantly by these people. Really sad stuff, man. Again, I was in this position as a kid. I was here. I know. I know what this is like. Not a good situation.
Our nation was founded on Judeo-Christian values.
No, it wasn't. That's a fake, made-up term. It's a made-up term intended to link Christianity with Judaism.
We know when things started changing. Prayer got taken out of school, and the schools started falling apart. And now the rest of us...
Wait, she thinks there's a correlation between the two? Prayer was removed from schools and the school starts falling apart? Well, first of all, prayer was not removed from schools, ever. People are allowed to pray as much as they want in school. Anybody, teachers, principal, whoever. You're perfectly free to do so. You're just not allowed to force students to pray with you. You're not allowed to lead the students in prayer. And you're complaining about that. Just disgusting, man.
Are going, wait a minute, where is my country? Our firm belief is there are two kinds of people in the world. People who love Jesus and people who don't. And I want my kids to grow up knowing, you know what, it's a good thing to be a Christian.
Okay, you can teach your kids that it's a good thing to be a Christian without going absolutely psychotic on them. That's possible to do.
Get ready.
Yeah, Matthew Spalding, our guest.
Tomorrow, Glenn Thomas gives us a first-hand perspective from Christian Marines involved in Operation Iraqi Freedom in his book, God Saw Them Through. So tomorrow ought to be very interesting. We'll see you back here then.
Operation Iraqi Freedom, dude. Hindsight is 20/20. We didn't know at the time. When this came out, let's see. I was going back to school, I think, talking to my brother. I think that I was in favor of the Iraq War. I think I believed that it was a good, productive thing, that we have to defend our country. When, in reality, Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, and, we didn't need to defend ourselves from Iraq in any way, to any degree. It is so sad how propagandized people got by the Bush administration specifically, by Republicans more generally. Operation Iraqi Freedom. And the estimates are that you know how we feel about Russia right now, by and large, unhappy that Russia is killing people, civilians, bombing apartment complexes and stuff. And how many people has Russia killed? Too many. Too many civilians. Too many people, period. Do you know how many Iraqi civilians died because of the United States? An estimated 500,000 minimum. Could be as high as 1 million. That's insane. There's no excuse for that. And of course, these are the people that we're watching on screen here who supported it. I mean, I can't talk too much. I supported it too at the time. I was just propagandized, If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, check me out on Patreon. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this in the comments. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.